Hello students, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we are able to.
Okay.
Yes, Vijay.
Okay. Okay, so I think now you can see my screen as well. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to develop OData service based on some wildcard characters. After that, I'll tell you how to apply conditions for generating new columns. So in today's class, we'll try to develop OData ABAP service which will fetch records based on wildcard characters. For example, think like this. For example, if I provide something like search word, if I provide something like search word as something like star, then I should get all the records. If I use question mark search equal to star, then I should get all the records. And if I provide, for example, question mark search equal to V star, if I provide V star, then I should fetch the records with starting letter as with first name, starting letter as V. Similarly, if I provide something like question mark search equal to S star P, if I use S star P, then I should get the records based on fetch records with first name, starting letter as S and ending letter as P, something like that. So I want to implement this particular functionality in our OData web service. So if you want to do this, first of all, I need to go to our get entity set method. So you can see, let me open the previous yesterday's entity set method. You can see here, I'm going to DPC extension class. So under DPC extension class, you can see yesterday we have implemented some code inside get entity set method to handle filter concept. But every time it need not be filtered, so I want to handle some such concept based on wildcard characters. So you can double click that method. You can double click that method, and here you can see for this method, yesterday we have written a simple code to fetch the data based on a filter string. We wrote some piece of code yesterday to fetch the data based on filter string, and the records are transferred using ET entity set. That is yesterday's story. But in today's class, I want to use a search concept based on wildcard character. So that's the reason why So I want to search the records based on wildcard character. So in that case, you can get the search string by using IO tech request context. IO tech request context is a standard parameter of get entity set method. By using this parameter, you can capture the search string which is coming from the front end. You can use IO tech request context to capture search string which is coming from the front end, and based on that you can execute the functionality. So I mean to say, here you can see so it looks like this. We're developing OData web service. I want to write some code in get entity set method. But in get entity set method, there is one parameter, IO tech request context. IO tech request context. I can use that. I can execute some select query, and then we can pass the output records by using ET entity set. IO tech request context will receive the input. ET entity set will send the output. So, but from the UI5 front end, SAP UI5 or Fiori front end, so the user can provide some search string. Search string, as he can provide some star, or he can provide something like V star, or he can provide something like S star P, something like that. So user can provide any search string, or he can directly provide some name. He can also directly provide some name, something like Sham. So I should be in a position to get specific record also. So based on this type of search string, I want to fetch the data and I want to display an output table in the front end. Overall, when I go for front end, you can see the data in the table, but what I can say is whatever search string user provides, that will reach your OData service by using IO tech request context. The search string given by end user will reach the search string given by end user from front end. It will reach your OData service by using IO tech request context. So what you can do is you can write whatever functionality you want. After that, you can send your output records to front end table. You can send your output records to front end table. Very simple. So I want to implement this functionality. It's very simple. And before proceeding, let me write some note. So now the most important thing is under get entity set method. Under get entity set method, there are two parameters. In today's class, we are going to use these parameters. One is IO tech request context. IO tech request context, it can receive the search string input from front-end applications. It can receive search string input from front-end applications like UI5 or Fiori, whatever. And similarly, you know that ET entity set is our output parameter. it will send our output records to front end. It can send output records to front-end apps by using ET entity set. So these are two important things for today's class. So let me go to that method, and here you can see IO tech request context. It is already available. IO tech request context and ET entity set is already available. So what you can do is you can change your select query here, and what you can do is you can use one such string declaration, something like type string. Data statement, such string, type string you can use. I'm declaring one variable as such string, and I want to capture the data coming from front end, so I can use IO tech request context. IO tech request context, and you can call a method like some y, then it won't respond to star. So that's the reason why by the time you execute your select statement, it should be converted to v%y, something like that. v%y. So what I mean to say is end user is familiar with star while searching the data, but our select statement won't react to star. So that's the reason why we have to convert from star to percentage. Our select statement in ABAP will respond to percentage, so we have to convert from star to percentage here. One second. It should be converted from star to percentage in all the cases. This to this also should be star to percentage. So that is how you need to write the logic. So that's the reason why what we can do is now we can use our ABAP techniques whenever necessary. I want to replace star with percentage before executing the select statement. User will provide star, but as a developer, you have to replace star with percentage before executing the select statement. So that's the reason why I can write some additional code here. Replace statement you can use. Replace all occurrences of. This is purely an ABAP code I'm writing. Replace all occurrences of something like star in such a string. In such a string with something like I want to replace with percentage. That's it. So we are replacing star with percentage under such string before passing that such string to where clause. Before executing select statement, we are passing search string by replacing star with percentage. So that's a simple trick you need to play here, and then you can use this code. So let me copy this, open, let me write in the form of steps, open data provider extension class and open get entity set method and implement the below code. So that's the code. Very simple, just one ABAP statement is included along with IO tech request context. Then activate the entire class and go to gateway client and test the service. Go to gateway client and test the service. But how you test it? So it all depends on the syntax according to the framework. So let me activate now. And don't forget, ET entity set is sending the output records. You can go back, and here you can go to gateway client, and here while testing you need to provide your entity set name. You need to provide your entity set name. After that, you have to use question mark. You have to use question mark, then you have to provide such equal to something like, if I use Vijay, then I should get that specific record. So I'm getting that specific record here with first name Vijay. But if I provide star, if I just provide star, then I should get all the records. Then you can see we are able to get all the records here. Raju, 1003, another record with Vijay, then Sweta. So you can see Sham Kumar, Rajesh. So we are able to get all the records here if I provide star. And say for example, if I provide R star, then I should get only those records with first name starting with R. So you can see now Raju here. There is another record Raju. And you can see Rajesh and Raghu and then Raju. So first name starting with R, we are able to get it. So that is how search string will work. And let me just show with one debugging breakpoint here. Let me go to DPC extension. Just let me put a breakpoint here. And let me know what exactly is coming to search string. I want to know what is coming to search string, and I want to know what is happening in replace statement. You can put a breakpoint here and try to execute from here. If I provide something like R star, and when I execute, so it will stop the execution at the breakpoint and it opens ABAP debugger. It stops the execution at breakpoint and it opens ABAP debugger. And you can see at this point of time, search string is taken as R star here. You can see that. But if I go to next line, after replace statement, after executing replace statement, you can see it is converting to R percentage here. And after executing our select statement, you can get those records somewhere here under ET entity set. So these are the records with starting letter as R under first name. Raju, Rajesh, Raghu, Ramesh, you can see those things. So that is one way of using this particular search keyword. Search is a keyword here. Let me remove the breakpoint. And we'll be getting those specific records. But let me give the syntax in your notes. So you can use this syntax here. So this is an entity set name, and search is a keyword. Search is a keyword, but R star, star, A star, whatever value will come from the front end when we design the front end applications. End user will provide some value from the front end that will reach here, but as of now we are searching from gateway client. So here it's an entity set name, and then that's a keyword, then that's a value. So that is the overall syntax you need to follow. Entity set, keyword, and the value. You can search like this with any character. So you can try those things. Now, say for example, let me explain one requirement here and we'll do it according to that. Now, let's open the database once. I'm just opening database table. So table, from database table, we are fetching these records. From database table, we are fetching these records. But what I want to do is, when I'm fetching these records, I want to add some 2 virtual columns while executing OData service. I want to add 2 virtual columns while executing OData service. For example, I want to create one column at OData service level. For example, something like some status here I want to create. And say for example, think like this: if salary is less than 50,000 or less than 60,000, I want to display some is the fresher employee here. If the salary is greater than 60,000, I want to make status as, for example, experienced employee. That value can be anything, but I'm just trying to make you understand here. Salary less than 60,000, I want to make it fresher employee. Greater than 60,000, I want to make it as experienced employee. So how to do that? You can see first record with something like 70,000 is available. So I want to use like 70,000. That means I should get the employee status as experienced employee. And if it is less than 60,000, I want to get it as fresher employee here. So that should be the new column. That will be a virtual column. That will exist when we execute OData service, and we can display them in the front end as well. The status column is not available in the database, but I want to generate at OData level and such that it also will be available in front end as well. So 60,000, I want to make it like fresher employee here. So that is how I'm expecting. Something like that. So less than or equal to, less than 60,000, I want to make experience, so I can use like this here. And 50,000, that is less than, so I can use fresher here. Something like that. I want to fill this status column in this manner. So this status won't exist in the database, but I want to generate virtually while executing OData service, and when front-end application is displaying the data, I'm expecting this column. but not existing in database level. And not only that, you can see there is a currency column, some are with India and some are with US. Some are with US. So based on that, for example, I'm expecting one currency column here. For your understanding, I'm writing one currency column. If the country is India, I want to display like Indian rupee. If the country is India, I'm expecting Indian rupee here. And if the country is US, I'm expecting, for example, US dollar. I'm expecting US dollar if the country is US. So that means currency column I want to fill according to country column based on condition. So I mean to say these two additional columns will be available when you execute data service, and it will be available when you test your SAP UI5 applications. But these columns won't practically exist under database table. So let me write a simple note here on this requirement. Develop OData ABAP service by adding new columns at OData service level. Develop OData ABAP service by adding new columns at OData level. For example, if salary is greater than equal to or greater than 60,000, I'm expecting greater than 60,000 display, for example, status value equal to experienced employee. Else display status value as fresher employee. So status is the column I want to generate based on some condition. Status is a column I want to generate based on condition. So not only that, if country is, for example, equal to matching with India, I want to display currency field value equal to Indian rupee here. Else if country is equal to US, I want to display currency field value equal to something like US dollar. So situations may be like this. So database table may not have these fields, but at OData level, you may be in a position to add those columns. And you can add the values based on conditions. So in order to do this, first you need to think about how to add a new column, status and currency at OData level. You have to add your status and currency at OData level here. So how to do that? So it's very simple. Just you need to go to, you can go to something like property section here. That means you need to go to entity type here. You can go to entity type, and what you can do is you can click on change here under entity type. And what you can do is you can add some new columns here. You can add some new columns. For example, one is status. And I want to take one data type, for example, idiom.string. You can see idiom.string. That's the data type I'm using, and you can provide some label as status. Provide label as status. And similarly, I can add one more field, that is currency. I'm just using some data type as idiom.string. I can use like this, idiom.string, and you can provide some label as currency. So you can save it. So these are the two columns we are adding here. Now, let me write that. Open, okay, double click. Double click entity type. And open the properties. Properties means they are nothing but the fields. And add two new columns or fields. First one with, for example, status with the data type equal to idiom.string. You can use other data types as well, and I'm using currency column with the data type as equal to idiom dot, you can use string or whatever. So this is what we are trying to add, and then save it. So after saving, what you need to do is you have to go to your entity type now. Under entity type, you need to remove this existing dictionary structure. After adding the fields, you have to remove the existing dictionary structure. So, one second. So you can remove this dictionary structure from here, and we have to remove this dictionary structure because we have added new fields apart from dictionary level. So you need not worry about dictionary now because we got all the fields with all the properties and data type, etc. And whenever you make changes in the metadata, adding new columns is nothing but there is a change in metadata. We have added a new column, that means there is some change in metadata. So whenever there is change in metadata, definitely you have to regenerate those runtime artifacts here. You have to regenerate. So let me click on that. And when you regenerate, it will update the metadata inside MPC class. So save, remove dictionary structure for entity type, and regenerate runtime objects. So when you generate this one, automatically MPC class will update the latest metadata of our service. It will automatically MPC class will update the latest metadata inside our service. So let me see here what exactly is happening. Let me show that. After regenerating, let me just once go to MPC class now. Under MPC class, if you double click, And if I go to type section, I can go to type section here. Under type section, you can go to table structure. Let me double click that. Let me open the table structure, and you can see now internally it is updating the metadata inside MPC class. So these are the existing fields from database table, but these are the new fields added here. Currency and status of metadata is updated. MPC class will update the latest fields after regenerating the runtime objects. So remember that. So we need not worry about that. Just to make you understand, I opened that MPC class. But as a developer, you can go to DPC extension class here. As a developer, you can go to DPC extension class and you can go to get entity set method for implementing further coding. So let me double click that method, get entity set. So in get entity set method, you need to write some piece of code now. So here you need to write some piece of code. Now, what we need to do is when we execute our select statement, all the records are coming to ET entity set. And those ET entity set records are transferred to it is transferred to front end. But now I don't want to transfer the output records directly. I want to do some manipulations here. I don't want to transfer the records as it is to the front end. I want to make some manipulations inside this code under ET entity set. So to complete this requirement, what I can do is I can declare one internal table here. For example, itab type ZCL model provider class. I want to declare one internal table itab pointing to our table type of EMP. Table type EMP. And similarly, I want to use one work area, for example, type ZCL model provider class. You can refer with table structure. You can refer with table structure here. So itab with table type, work area with table structure. So I told you already how exactly table type, table structure works. So there is a table type, there is a table structure. So table type we are using for internal table, table structure we are using for work area. So in the very beginning of our course, I told you these things, declarations. Now what I can do is I can bring the data from our database table to our internal table, that is itab. We can bring the records from our database table to an internal table, that is itab. After that, you can apply some looping here. Loop at itab into work area. You can write your ABAP statements here. And you can put end loop. So you can use some loop, end loop statement, and inside this you can apply some conditions. You can use loop and end loop, and you can apply some conditions here. So for example, if work area hyphen something like salary is greater than 60,000, I want to assign work area with status equal to, for example, experienced employee, something like that. Else, I want to assign status equal to fresher employee. Greater than, equal to, let me use that. Okay, greater than, equal to, let me use like that. And otherwise, I want to use fresher employee here. And then you can put end if. And similarly, I can add one more condition. If work area hyphen, for example, country is equal to India here, I want to use work area hyphen currency equal to Indian rupee. Something like that. For all other countries, for example, for all other countries, I want to assign some US dollar. For our understanding, we are making like this, but it all depends on your scenario. So you can put end if here. So within the loop, we are applying these if else conditions. Within the applying else conditions. And now what we can do is, at last we can append our work area every time to our ET entity set, because ultimately our output records should be transferred to ET entity set, because this is the mediator between OData service and front end. ET entity set is the mediator and it is responsible for sending output records to front end. So ultimately the records should come to that ET entity set. Ultimately, the records should come to ET entity set here. So I mean to say, you get the data, you apply some conditions, after doing whatever you want, but finally data should be transferred using ET entity set. There is no other way. Ultimately, final records must be transferred to ET entity set, but as a developer, you write your select query, you apply conditions, you do whatever you want, but send the data to ET entity set. If you are using get entity set method. So that is how you can apply some conditions here. So let me copy this final version of this code. Go to or open get entity set method and just implement the below code. Implement below code, you can use that. So as a developer, we apply conditions, but ultimately data must be transferred to front end via ET entity set standard parameter. So please notice that. Ultimately, data must be transferred to front end via ET entity set parameter. So it's nothing new. You can write all your above functionalities, but you need to know how to receive the input, how to send output. That is the only thing you have to learn additionally in OData services. As a developer, you can write your above functionalities, but the only thing that you need to learn additionally in OData service is how to receive the data from front end, how to send the data to front end. That is the only thing you need to learn additionally, apart from above syntaxes. So please focus on that area. So let me try to activate this class. And open gateway client, test the service. Open gateway client and test the service. So you can test the service. I'm using search concept. Search concept is included here. So I can test the service with these URLs. You can try with any of these URLs for testing purpose. So let me do that. Activate, go back and go to service maintenance and try to go to gateway client. And here we have applied search string concept, so you can use like your entity set name, question mark some search equal to, for example, star. Now you can see we are getting all the records, but what is missing now? This is important for us. If you execute now, so 2 columns are not added here. We are unable to see that after executing the service. I'm expecting status and currency, but they are not displayed here. So remember, whenever you change the metadata, always I told you, you need to clear the cache here. You have to go to metadata, clean up cache from both the systems. Whenever you make some changes, it is recommended to clean up the cache from both the systems here. Otherwise, it won't update the latest metadata. So let me do that. Just click on continue. Now let us execute the service once. And this time you can see now 2 new columns are added. So experienced employee, Indian rupee for status and currency. And similarly, here you can see there's a fresher employee with Indian rupee. And you can see fresher employee with US dollar. So that means our functionality is working fine according to the conditions. So there is no problem, it is able to succeed. It is recommended to clear cache from both systems whenever there is change in metadata. So it is recommended. After doing that, execute the service. That's it. Then you can get those 2 columns after clearing the metadata cache. Okay, students, so I'll stop for today. On Monday, we'll discuss some more topics inside this OData services. How to insert a record, or how to delete a record, or how to update the record, how to upload a file, download a file, etc., will come into picture. So in the next week, we'll be discussing about how to handle other CRUD operations like inserting a data, inserting record, deleting record, updating record, and we'll try to understand some function import concept. There is a concept like function import in OData, so everything will come into picture. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Today I'll try to pick one by one. Don't unmute, I'll try to pick one by one today. Yeah, Abhijit, you have any doubt? Abhijit.
Yeah, Vijay, I have doubts that how can you put the ranges in these OData services?
How can you?
Put the range. You can use the range syntax.
select option syntax you want?
Yeah, no, normally if we have any range, means how can we put that in a query?
Range means what? So something like lower value, higher value, you mean to say that?
Yeah, I mean in select option only we have the parameter that we can put the range. You
Yes,
can
yes. So
or
that concept will come into picture. Don't worry about that. We are going to use one method like, today we have used one method like get search string. Similarly, there are other methods to capture.
okay.
There are other methods to capture. Today we have used one special method like get search string on
Okay.
IO tech request context. So instead of get search string, we can use other methods. If you use control space, you'll get some methods in the coding part. So IO tech request context will be useful to capture those things. Okay.
Okay.
Then what about next one? Adi Lakshmi. Can you hear me?
No, sir, I don't have any doubts.
Okay, fine. Then Ajit.